Hello, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to the Wesleyan Connection. This podcast is primarily for the clergy and laity of the Holston Annual Conference. Join with me now as I take a look around the Connection and share some of the things happening in the churches of our annual conference. Hello, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to this edition of the Wesleyan Connection podcast. For those that are regular followers, you might notice that I didn't make my normally appointed time of 7 a.m. on Wednesday of each week. I have been struggling to decide the best thing to report or to cover or to talk about this week. I actually had about over a half-hour podcast created, but after discussion with certain people, I've decided that I will wait and perhaps share that later, and instead look at something that has come through the United Methodist News Service. Heather Hahn reported on November the 9th that the bishops are considering 3 models for the church's future. We all know that that's in relation to the Commission on the Way Forward and their preliminary report to the bishops. And in that report, they were suggesting that there are 3 possible pathways forward for our denomination. I'm just going to read you directly from this United Methodist News Service article written by Heather Hahn. And she says the possibilities under consideration. First of all, affirm the current Book of Discipline language and place a high value on accountability. The church policy book says the practice of homosexuality is incompatible with Christian teaching and lists officiating at same-gender union or being a self-avowed practicing gay clergy member as chargeable offenses under the law. A second option, remove restrictive language and place a high value on contextualization. This sketch also specifically protects the rights of those whose conscience will not allow them to perform same-gender weddings or ordain LGBTQ persons. Third option, create multiple branches that have clearly defined values such as accountability, contextualization, and justice. This model would maintain shared doctrine and services and one council of bishops. She goes on to say, each possibility includes a way to exit for those church entities that feel called to leave the denomination. End my quote from her article. You know, it's the elephant in the room that we have not talked about for years and years, and now it's the elephant that we're going to have to talk about. Come 2019, I believe in February, the special general conference is going to be called, and you will hear the reports from this commission. You'll hear the reports from the bishops, I suppose, and as a denomination, we are going to have to make a decision. How will we deal with the topic of human sexuality? Well, when I look at those 3 options that are available, I'll just be honest with you, I go along with the first option. Affirm the current Book of Discipline language and place a high value on accountability. You know, I'm part of a covenant. I agreed to be a part of a covenant. I agreed to use the Book of Discipline sort of as a rule of how I will govern my ministry and how I will lead churches. I agreed to all that. And that's what the Book of Discipline says in terms of human sexuality. I uphold those teachings. I realize that there are some that don't, that differ from me. The question is, how do we deal with the differences? How do we, as people on opposite sides of the spectrum, how do we come to a middle ground? Is there a middle ground for people called Methodist on this issue? That's the elephant that's in the room, so to speak. That's the thing that we are going to have to consider, and we're going to have to try as a denomination to get around. The second one, remove restrictive language and place a high value on contextualization. Not sure exactly what that means. I have read Bishop O's address to the Council of Bishops that week, and he talked about contextualization. Does that mean that each local church would be able to determine for itself whether they would adhere to more, I will say, conservative language, more orthodox language, or adhere to a more progressive kind of language? Is that up to each local church? Is that up to the pastor of the local church? Is that the contextualization that option is talking about? I'm not sure. I just don't know the details. The third option, create multiple branches that have clearly defined values such as accountability, contextualization, and justice. Not sure what that means either. This model would maintain shared doctrine and services and one council of bishops. So somehow, the other two models suggest that there might be different councils of bishops, that there might be different denominational arrangements, alignments. I'm just not sure what that third option is all about with multiple branches. To me, it seems like a multiple branch would be more fractious than unifying, and therefore there would have to be a division in the Council of Bishops. You see, there's just so much we don't know. There's so much that we can't yet understand. The report is not yet finished. It's not been finalized. There's still several meetings of the group. And I guess that as United Methodists, we're going to have to learn to live with some ambiguity. We're going to have to learn to live with some not knowing. We're going to have to learn to live with what is the right way? What is the way forward that's going to help us as a denomination truly be in ministry and mission to a world that needs to hear the good news of Jesus Christ? Is our doctrine important? Are we going to stick with what we have asserted for 40 plus years? Are we going to say that it's time to change, just as there were issues that faced the church in the past, such as slavery? Are we going to change the way that we approach the idea of human sexuality, the way we change the way that we approached slavery, the way that we changed the way that we approached the role of women in the church? I don't know. And it's that I don't know that makes it difficult. It makes it difficult to as a minister, sometimes stand up and proclaim that this is what we know, that this is what we support, that this is what's the gospel, so to speak. This is what our church believes, when we don't know what our church is going to formally believe until after 2019. We know what we believe right now. And I'm of the firm belief that, we should hold one another accountable to the belief system, to the doctrine that we currently have as a denomination until it's changed, and until it's either reaffirmed or until new doctrine is put into place for us to follow. And so I guess what I'm challenging us to do as United Methodists is to continue to be in prayer, to continue to look at this issue and see where God is leading us. And if I remember one of the documents that I have read in the past week, perhaps the address that Bishop O made to the Council on Bishops stressed the idea that each bishop is going to have to help his or her annual conference talk about these matters. So we need to be praying for our bishop. Bishop Taylor has an enormous task in front of her as she tries to begin helping us as an annual conference discern where the Spirit might be moving and might be leading on this matter of human sexuality. So pray for our bishop. Pray for all the bishops. Pray for those persons that are on the commission that is looking at these items, that will be presenting this information to the Council of Bishops. Most importantly, pray that in the midst of all this, we could discern God's voice, God's will, and see what God's vision for the future might be for a people called United Methodist. Well, I hope you have been challenged by this podcast today. Again, I'm sorry that I'm 2 days late with it, but I've been struggling this week with exactly what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. Again, I'd already had a 35-minute podcast under the belt, so to speak, ready to post, and maybe others have suggested I needed to come with a more middle-of-the-road approach for right now, rather than a more, I don't know. I hope you can see, I can't see, I hope you can hear in my voice the struggle that I'm having. And I believe that many of you are struggling just as well. Keep on struggling, keep on praying, keep on believing that God will guide us. So God bless, have a great Sunday. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a podcast up next Wednesday or not. It being Thanksgiving week and I'm going on vacation, there might not be one next week. But if there's not, there will be one back up the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. So God bless. Have a great day. Go to church this Sunday. I'm going to be out of town this Sunday. I'm taking vacation, and I'm going to be going to church with my mom, and we're going to be going to Kurt McKee's church, St. Mark's United Methodist Church in Louisville. It's a great church. Kurt does a great job there, and I'm looking forward to worshiping with them. And they also have their Thanksgiving meal after church. There's nothing that beats a United Methodist Fellowship meal, especially a Thanksgiving one. So I'm looking forward to enjoying that meal with those folks there in Louisville. And I hope you find a church, or if you're a pastor, I hope your church will celebrate Thanksgiving and enjoy time with family next week. God bless. Have a great day. This is Pastor Goodman. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wesleyan Connection. Be sure to check back often for more podcasts.